Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchise. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. I'm your host, Lance Graulich, and today, we're all told by our family, by our doctors, we should eat better, we should exercise more. How about stretching? I know my dad was pretty stiff all the time, so I always pushed him to stretch, and even myself, as I'm getting close to 60, I certainly need to even stretch a lot more than I am doing right now. But the next gentleman, boy, he is a fascinating guy, an exercise physiologist or exercise physiology background. He is the founder and president of a brand called StretchMed. Welcome to the show, Brian Cook.
Hey, Lance, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So awesome to have you, Brian, and sharing your expertise, and more importantly, why our listeners should be interested in getting into a fitness type concept, a stretching studio like StretchMed. So let's hear it. How the heck did this whole thing start? Have you been interested in fitness your whole life? Take us back to high school, probably.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, Lance. For me, StretchMed is my fourth company in 28 years of focused on boutique fitness. So I was lucky to stumble into my passion really, really early in my career. As you mentioned, exercise physiology background, health and fitness. I started as a personal trainer back when I was 20 years old during college, and they went on to open one-on-one personal training studios, small group fitness training studios. And then did a bunch of those, was a franchisee, then an area rep, which was super cool. So I got to kind of work under a franchisor, learn a lot, sell a bunch of franchises, and then made the leap to a franchisor in a small group fitness model. And then around 2015, a family friend had taken me out for coffee, asked me about the stretching industry. And I never heard of it. I was like, wow, stretching, interesting, never heard of it. And, fast forward 2017, saw Stretch Zone, the Stretch Lab starting to pop up. It reminded me of the convo with the family friend. And I was like, geez, wait a second. Way back in my early days, I used to stretch one of the partners of the Boston Red Sox. I stretched him and I trained him for 30 minutes. Stretch him for 30, train him for 30. But never did I think it would be a thing. It would be its own thing. So just saw the success to say, geez, told my right-hand guy, Tony, who's been with me for 15 years on the fitness side, looks like we're getting into the stretching business.
I love it. It's kind of like when I became a Wingstop franchisee, people would stop me and go, what do you, just chicken wings? So, you're very laser focused on one aspect of fitness, which is an enormous aspect, because I'm sure statistically, I happen to know, because I love fitness. I don't know as much as you, obviously, but as people age, they fall, they break their hips. I mean, all awful accidents occur, and I know a lot of this has to do with their inflexibility. Is that not true?
Yeah. When you think about, even let's start with like the industry, looking at the verticals that exist. Physical therapy, been around forever, right? Deals with an injury. Chiropractic, been around, came next. Skeletal issues, essentially dealing with the skeletal system. Then massage therapy about 20 or so years ago, soft tissue work, deep tissue work. And then now we have stretch, which is essentially moving every joint in your body the way it's supposed to move. So we regain the range of motion we had as we were kids. And the first step in the aging process is we lose range of motion. And then all of the musculature involved in those range of motion atrophy. And then as people old, they see people turn, they can't move their neck, they turn their whole body left and right. We have 5 stretches for the neck. So it's, first step in longevity is maintaining range, regaining range of motion that was lost. Because then when I work out, hike, play golf, I'm utilizing the full range of motion around my joint.
So it sounds like if you're not stretching, you're from losing range of motion to enjoying your life as you age appropriately. And we all hope to live to a really long age. Stretching is obviously a minimum requirement of living a happy life, right?
Yeah, it really should be the precursor to fitness. This is the first thing that you do even before you enter a gym, is just get going with a stretching routine, even if it's at home, bunch of information online for free. Just get the ball rolling, nutrition,
Gotcha.
etc. And then with the funny story with massage, 20 years ago when I left another brand I was at, that owner bought the first Elements franchise, and he asked me if I wanted to get involved, and I literally said to him that I didn't see massage becoming a big thing. And here we are 20 years later, thousands and thousands of massage therapy studios. So when I saw stretching starting to develop, I said, I'm not going to miss this one.
That is a funny story. So when you were sharing your backstory at the top of the show, you mentioned as you got into franchising. How did you fall into franchising? Because most people don't just, have a goal of getting into a franchise. Somehow we all fall into it.
Yeah, great question. So when I started my first personal training studio, I was 23, rubbing two nickels together. Just, money loan from my dad, post-dated checks. Most of your listeners are probably too young to know what a post-dated check is. Just a shoestring. So I kind of grinded out the 100-hour week for 5-year kind of plan. I got to 3 locations, hit the wall, had to close one, sell one, got back to my original one-on-one studio, licking my wounds. I think I was like 26 at the time. Was making $100,000 a year. Loved what I was doing. I said, geez, I think this would be a good franchise model. So I started the process of franchising my current studio, and discovered someone else who had already done it. And that was a very big moment for me, because it was really hard for me to drop that, to hook onto his wagon. But ultimately, he said something I'll never forget. He said, Brian, I don't care what we call it. I just want to roll them out. And, the name of his company wasn't the original company. And when we partnered, we just became much stronger than we were individually. And I bought the rights to Massachusetts, and really got to grow under his umbrella, which then ultimately gave me the ability, if you're listeners, I got on board with an existing franchise as an area rep with just $10,000. So I negotiated the purchase of Massachusetts for $100,000, gave him a $10,000 deposit. He kept the next 90 in my 50%. They were made whole. Then I went on to run that meter up, sold 60, got 40 open, and exited for 1.2 million after 5 years, starting with 10 grand. So you can do really well as a franchisee for an existing brand.
Yeah. So you got your taste of franchising, and here we are with StretchMed. So we talked a lot about stretching and the benefits behind it. So describe what StretchMed is, how big these studios are, where you are now with development, and your plans.
Yeah, great. So once I decided to get into stretching and create StretchMed, I'm a fact finder, so did a ton of research, flew around the country, went to all the competitors, looked at their stretch, looked at what they did, and just said, geez, we can massively improve upon this. So what we did, which is different than everyone else, is that our stretch is a 50-minute stretch, head to toe, 36 stretches head to toe in 50 minutes. And it's a sequence. It's almost like it's a sequence, it's a system. And because of that system, we're able to get twice the stretching done in the same minute of time from our competitors. One of our competitors has a belt system that you fumble around putting a belt on. That's wasting time from actually stretching. No real reason you'd need to belt in. No scientific reason whatsoever you would need that, other than it just that someone just decided to do it. Another competitor they give the therapist full autonomy, so they do what they want. And with that, it becomes wasted time. So we created this really efficient process. Inside the 50-minute stretch we have, I'd say, hey, Lance, how are you feeling? You'd say, great. Anything you want to work on today? Anything you want to focus on today? Wow, Brian went golfing. right SI joints a little banged up, and I'm like, all right, cool. Now I'm gonna PNF your lower body. So PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, just a little phrase for I get you to end range in a stretch. I then tell you, hey, Lance, I want you to push against me, meet my resistance. I get you to fire the muscle, and then I get you to relax again and go deeper. So now I'm going to customize a part of that 50-minute to you, how you're feeling that day. So then you leave the table feeling awesome.
Now, how hard is it to find staff? These are like personal trainers. They have some sort of certification. It can't be that challenging to find people and train them within this system, right?
Well, yeah. What's interesting, beyond a few years ago, there was no such thing as a stretch therapist. There was no such thing.
Right.
So we literally have created that position. So we typically take athletic trainers, personal trainers, massage therapists, kinesiology, exercise science, that type of background. We teach them our 36 stretches, put them through an anatomy course just to make sure they're tight on anatomy, teach them 36 stretches. Then we teach them our 10, 25, and 50-minute stretching protocols.
Got it.
So very teachable, very trainable. And there's a bazillion fit pros out there, fitness professionals, bazillion. Right. So that's where we're lucky. And we're paying, we keep increasing what we're paying our therapists just to pull them from other fitness concepts that they're at, try to get the best of the best that's out there.
So talk about your locations now. How many do you have open right now? How big they are? Are they? And your future plans? Because I know you have different models in mind.
Yeah, so we have 25 locations open right now. Another 5 in the queue. We started 2022 with 7, ended with 25. So had a big push. I think we're projecting to go from 25 to 50 this year, just based on current demand. And then what's really exciting, which it's great when you can, create something and then just be nimble. A lot of our locations are really, really high traffic, high visibility, 900 square feet, 800 square feet. And then it dawned on me, I'm like, why not open up 1, 2, and 3 table models that are even smaller? And then what that's going to ensure us, right? It's going to ensure that there's more demand for the supply of stretching we have. We can open the studio from 6 in the morning till 8 at night, 7 days a week. So there's a ton of supply to make money. And if we're charging, $75 to $85 a stretch, paying a therapist in that $30, $35 range, huge margin. Build out, it's going to be less. And then most importantly, we can get into just high traffic retail storefront locations, but just make them smaller. So yeah, that's really how we operate. Find the location. Is it like we're looking at one in San Diego right now? That's 380 square feet. We can fit a 2-table model. Beautiful brand new location, Girard Ave. So really 300, somewhere in that 250, 500, 750 square feet. 1,000 square feet would be our typical 4-table model. And that's it. So find the great location first, and then we put the model in second.
Yeah, and you've already proven out the 800, 900,000 square foot model with all the locations you have, and these places make money. Talk about the investment. A lot of boutique fitness brands, as Seinfeld would say, not that there's anything wrong with this or that, there's a big investment. You're talking like, 350, 400,000 for some of these boutique brands out there, but this is something that under 150,000 or so, you get a 900 square foot place open.
Yeah, so our item 7, the cost to open a StretchMed, the last handful have been around 150,000.
Fantastic.
And that's the 4-table kind of full-blown model. So we think with the 2-table model, we're gonna get this thing under 100,000, which I love. I'm all about unit economics, return on cash, return on time, all those very important metrics. And our item 19, which many of you know in the franchise disclosure doc, they permit us to make an earnings claim item 19. We've got the last item 19 prior to this next update. We've got average profit of 7,255 a month. And for some franchisees, it was their second month open, they did that.
Wow.
So literally positive cash flow month one. So we'll run an aggressive pre-sale. We'll offer the first 100 members this founding member rate, lowest rate we'll ever offer. And that's how we close people in coffee shops, pop-ups, farmers markets, 5Ks, inside of gyms. And recurring revenue model.
Yeah.
Right. 30-day notice to cancel. So it's an easy membership. So if I saw you at a pop-up table, you think you're gonna get a cup of coffee, and I'm like, hey Lance, or I'm like, hey, you want to try a free stretch? And you come over and you're like, sure, get you on a table, boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna close you tier one pricing. And that's it. Close your tier one pricing, and then we open a studio with, try to get 100 members even before we open.
Yeah, that's incredible, because the number one question that people ask me as a franchise broker, franchise consultant, is what's that ramp up like? And even people that don't necessarily use that terminology, I know that that's the first logical question is, when do I start making money, or when do I start breaking even? And for you to come out of the gate within a month or two on that low investment and making money is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Membership wise, when you say the tier one membership, your stores are mainly concentrated in the Northeast now, right? Like Boston.
Yeah, most in the Northeast, because we started there. We have a couple in Puerto Rico, which we talked. I spend some time in Puerto Rico, so we opened a few down there, which they're doing great. And then we've got Arizona. We've got 3 opening in Tampa, Ohio. I'm talking to someone now about the rest of the state of Ohio, and someone in Charlotte. So a lot of traction in terms of nationwide right now.
So what's the average? Boston, I know, will be more expensive maybe than Arizona or some other areas, but what's that membership typically?
So tier one pricing, $65. First 100 members. Whether you come once, you pay $65 per 50-minute stretch. Come once a month, 16 times a month, whatever you can, whatever someone can afford, what the time is. And then once tier one goes away, we go to tier two, $75, the next 100 members. Tier three would be $85, the third 100 members. And essentially, we're completely full at that point. Tier three, you're kind of done at that point. And then you're expanding hours. And then our drop-in rate is 105, just to make it where you want to get into membership, even if you come once a month, because stretching isn't something you do periodically. It's self-care. You got to build it into your life.
So you don't need a lot of staff, whether it's one table, whether it's the 4-table model. You don't need a lot of staff. You don't have a big build out. The profitability is, the sky's the limit. So, who are you looking for? Who is a great fit for you for StretchMed?
Yeah, I think someone who's, really looking to just step into a proven system and execute everything that's been laid out. As I'm personally involved in the owner selection at this point. So to me, the 5 or 6 things, if you get these right, it's really hard to fail. And it's, pick the right owner, 1, pick the right territory, 2. So we're very careful. We do demographic analysis, picking the right territory. So we're going to look at, how many households in a 5-mile radius earn over 200 grand a year, 150 to 200, over 100. So really get clear. And then we map it. We compare it to all our other locations. So owner, territory, pick the right location within that territory, making sure it's, national tenants, good tenant mix. Negotiate the right lease. We personally negotiate all the leases, because that's the begins and ends with the lease. Hire the right manager and hire the right assistant manager. So those 2 employees in a 4-table model. The smaller store is a little bit different, and we don't make those hires, but we just assist the franchise owners heavily. Really, another cool thing we do is we just brought on a consultant who is specifically working with all the managers of all the StretchMeds. So his role is developing a management training program, because in franchising, joint employer, we can't really hire managers, we can't manage managers, but now we brought in a consultant who's going to really fill that gap, so we can be owners, we can really be entrepreneurs and just organize talent within a widget, which is the StretchMed, kind of get out of the way.
Yeah. Love it. No, this is awesome. So if you look across the existing franchisees today, the most successful ones, who is, wait, are all your stores corporate now?
No, they're all franchise except
They're all
one.
franchise now. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. I want to make sure I didn't screw that up. So how many, if you look at your top 3 franchisees right now, what did they do before? Because, there are people listening thinking, how do I know if this type of concept is right for me?
Yeah. So one of our, funny story. The very first location we opened in Wellesley, Massachusetts, November 2019, we kind of had a really amazing opening. And one of the members came in because a flyer got put on her window, these free intro stretch cars on her window. So she came in, signed up, loved it, told her husband, met with me, and then they bought 3 franchises. And she's a dental hygienist for 40 years.
Love it.
Now they're up to 4 locations. They own the top StretchMed. So they're
Brian, that is my favorite testimonial right there. Is when someone becomes a client, has to buy in, and then continues to buy more locations.
Yeah, she's just great with people. So really, great people. And one thing I'll tell you about the marketing. So we're really granular at this thing. This is like, we don't just say you want to buy. So if you said I want to buy a franchise where you live and you hand us a check, and say no. We got to start with massive demographic analysis, right? And if we pick everything's right.
I love it.
We're gonna run your paid ad campaign. So Facebook, Instagram paid ads, Google paid ads. So if you think about it, unless you live under a rock, if you're 40 plus within a 5-mile radius of the studio, we live in your feed. And the only way to get us out of your feed is by signing up. So right. And we just keep reminding you of the benefits we're making. So the other big thing that makes StretchMed just so superior to even fitness is that we give free 10-minute demo stretches to everybody.
Yeah.
So we keep putting our hands on people. They're like, wow, that was amazing. And then we sign them up.
Your mom never taught you to keep your hands to yourself?
Yeah, not in this case. So all the fitness concepts, pop-ups, like I mentioned, we really hook up with the fitness concepts. They love it because they're giving their customers, free stretching.
You know what I love about your marketing, and it makes so much sense. The top franchise brands are very aggressive with the marketing. They don't necessarily allow the franchisees to dabble, because that's really what I call it. You dabble in something, you have, it's hit and miss on the success you have. But I can imagine if your target is 40 and over, a certain household income, all of us, I'm almost 60. I wake up with aches and pains most days of the week. So you look into your Facebook feed or something in Google and you see StretchMed thrown at you. You're like, how did they know? How did they know that I need this so badly?
Exactly. And then we just get the owners to really work on content. So it's getting your testimonial that becomes the marketing of next week, and then someone else's testimonial. And
love it.
We have one guy that's like, geez, I came into StretchMed and I was like, I sat there and it said, I feel like I'm 18 again. Everyone should feel this way. And it's like the best testimony we've ever heard. The guy's like 60.
It doesn't get any better than that. He's how old?
He was like, at the time, he was like 60 with the testimonial, just avid runner, works out a ton, and he just said he was missing stretch. So
that's awesome.
Super cool.
So we talked about marketing. Let's talk a little bit more about your process. So either I bring somebody to you or somebody listens to the podcast, they reach out and they're talking to you, they're talking to your team. Describe, is there a discovery day eventually after they get the franchise disclosure document? And is there an opportunity for validation by talking to existing franchisees? How do you do all that?
Yeah, so the new land of Zoom is quite interesting. So I jump on calls with everyone like this. Someone can fly into Boston if they want to check out a bunch of stores, can pop into Puerto Rico as well if you want to. take your husband or wife away for the weekend, or girlfriend or partner, just to get away. San Juan's pretty fun, especially if you're from the Northeast. It's a pretty cool spot to go in the winter. And then we'll have a series of one-on-one calls, really get you to understand the fibers of StretchMed, every single piece that we've got laid out. So then you get comfortable, and then we start looking for locations. Even before we come on, we're going to look for locations. We're going to show you demos, look at your market, you know, and then see, and then, you know, those that get involved early, as you know, right, they're going to get more territory, more locations, better deal than those that come in later. So it's definitely a first mover advantage situation. So we want to really grow the next couple, 2-3 years. We're bringing on an outside development company that's got 30 salespeople that are going to take our process from lead to close. I'll still talk to everyone, but it'll free me up from the back and forth.
Yeah,
I can focus on operations and really focus on execution of the product.
well, and they'll deliver you the best candidates. That's what you want, the best options. So talk a little bit about validation. Each of the candidates or the prospects have the opportunity to speak to existing franchisees about their experience. Brian and team are fantastic. You should join, all that good stuff.
Yeah, all the owners are, you know, up on our website, of course. We can make introductions if anyone wants to select someone. You know, we can't point to anyone. So what we can do is you look at our website. You could, you know, you want to talk to the first owner, the largest owner, someone who got on more recently, you know, all the above. And then, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, people think franchising is so mysterious. And then when I tell them there's a disclosure document that reveals all kinds of good information, there's a process where you can actually talk to existing franchisees, you meet the whole corporate team. I think you have enough information, right?
When you're small too, one other thing I like to point out to people is when you're our size, you know, 25 units, you can't have a failure. So it's kind of like we have to over vet a potential owner, a potential location, because you know, if you have 100 or 200 or 500, a failure is never good, but they can weather that. We really can't. So it's you know, we're pretty serious about this, and I've been doing this a long time. And to take someone's life savings and put it in harm's way, I have to be 100% certain it's going to work, or we just don't do it. It's kind of what it is. So yeah, real important to us. So looking for great owners, and we get our owners to think of it this way: like, you're going to be an analyst. You're going to run a StretchMed. You're going to hire a manager to run the business. You're only going to develop that one person. And the guy we just brought on, I put a 7-figure proposal in front of him. He's a high level guy. He was making $250,000 a year at his last job. And I said to him, look, you know, first column what we teach is vision. And, you know, our job is to make sure our franchise owners understand this huge vision in front of them. The franchise owner's job is to make sure that their manager and their team understand that there's unlimited potential. So for our guy that we brought on, it's as long as the store is profiting at least $5,000 a month, we'll open the second one. And then as long as both are making at least $5,000 a month, we'll open the third one. All the way to 100 locations. You know, and at 50, he's going to pull in 1.2 million. And just by creating that vision, you're going to attract a much higher caliber person than just the run-of-the-mill manager job. And us as owners would keep opening locations if they produce those numbers. So we have a guy who gets a P&L. Here's the profit share you're getting on the P&L. Let's run this business together.
Yeah, and you were giving the minimum numbers. You were giving $5,000 a month as a minimum, and you have studios doing far more than that. And but I love that you have it all dialed in, all of that experience, all of those years that you went through it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to the point now where you got it all figured out. And I absolutely love it. So people should consider themselves lucky if they get awarded a StretchMed franchise at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I've had personally hundreds of employees in the last 28 years. So, and now having this dedicated consultant running a management training program, because he's just a couple of years ahead of these managers that we're hiring. So we now can just plug managers in. And my favorite saying is, wealth creation has a direct correlation with your ability to develop people. And my stores, I'm not stepping footing them. I'm just going to develop the manager, put a great pay plan in front of them and just get out of their way. Here are the tools. I'm here to support you. I'm not going to micromanage you, and have a ball. And then everyone has fun and make a lot of money. But you got to love what you do, love who you work for and work with.
I want you to repeat that. That was such a great quote. Do the wealth creation quote again.
Yeah. So the clarity that I've gained in many years of banging my head against a brick wall is that, wealth creation is the direct correlation of your ability to develop people. And develop people is friggin' hard. It's incredibly hard. So, but at least we have to agree that that's the limitation. Yeah. We can all do wonderful things with our two hands, but then that earning potential stops. It's when we can develop someone else. Like, I've had multiple managers where they would make me $7,000 a month, $5,000 a month in profit, and I would spend 1 hour on that business a month. So I'm like, wow, I'm making $5,000 an hour on this particular. So that's the idea. Awesome. You're not going to develop the part-timers. You're not going to go in on the weekend. You develop one manager. That manager now is responsible for everything else. And if they can't do that, that's who you replace.
Yep.
You're not going to, because if you start managing employees, guess what? It sucks. Yes. Now you're in the weeds of a business when, again, we're analysts. Yep. We're not gonna be the talent in the store. We're gonna hire the talent in the studio.
So many people today want to be in the world of franchising, I call it the semi-absentee role, where you're working 10 to 20 hours a week at most in the business, or really on the business, but not necessarily in the business physically. And you said it perfectly. I'll take that $5,000 for 1 hour of work any day of the week, right?
Well, here's the question, right? If I said to you, would you rather make, and I used to tell my owners this, would you rather make $5,000 a month and not step foot in the door, or work your ass off to make $10,000 a month? Everyone's like, $5,000 a month. Yes. Right. So
because you could replicate it.
Develop the manager, pay them handsomely, and no way 20 hours a week in one store. Like I'm like to me, you should be able to dial this in if you're the right manager, 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
If you're the right manager, because the systems are in place. Keep your main hustle. StretchMed becomes a side hustle until we show you this incredible return on time. Then you're like, I'm gonna kick the corporate thing to the curb, do this thing full time and smell the roses a bit and take some time off.
Love it. So Brian, this is a lot of great stuff you shared already. So final thoughts for today, final words of wisdom for the listeners.
Yeah, I think if you listeners, go check out the Franchise 500. If StretchMed isn't your wheelhouse, we'll get on this next running, because we were emerging last year. But I think get into franchising. It's a pathway to wealth creation. We're all in the business of widgets. Gotta love what you do, but at the end of the day, you're building it for the other guy or gal to run it. And be an analyst. Don't get in the weeds. Know your numbers, and scale. And scaling and exiting is also a great strategy for franchisees. So yeah, that's what I got, Lance.
Brian, thank you so much for being here. I feel much more limber and free. And thank you, Brian. StretchMed, awesome brand. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks for having me, and thanks all you listeners. Take care.
Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.